economy. I'm pleased to bring in our panel right now, former CIA analyst Fred Fleitz. He's also former NSC Chief of Staff, Vice Chair of America First Policy Institute. And alongside Fred, we welcome in national security analyst Brigitte Gabriel, the chairwoman for actforamerica.org. Her book right there, a bestseller, and it is called Rise. Welcome into you both. So much to get into. A pleasure to have you both.
Good to be here.
Thank you.
You know, we talk about some of these trade deals. A lot of it's national security as well, be it China or be this one with the EU. Fred, just your top line thoughts here. You know, a pledge from the EU, Ursula von der Leyen, to buy $750 billion of U.S. energy. You know, when we've been talking for years about the war in Ukraine, it is the EU purchasing of Russian energy that has allowed them to fund this war for years. And now we saw stocks tumble. We see a 10 to 12 day deadline for Putin. Do you think this is enough? Are the walls closing in on him now, even before the potential for harsher sanctions?
First, I can't overestimate the significance of the EU trade deal. A month ago, the EU was vowing that they were going to fight to the end. They were not going to make a deal with Trump. But I think we're seeing that success breeds success. After the Japan deal and other Trump successes, nations are signing up to make deals with Trump. And this increase in Trump's credibility and leadership, the perception of success, gives him leverage to deal with Putin. He's also saying to Putin, look, you didn't take my 50 days seriously. I'm cutting it back to 2 weeks. That's what a credible president does. He adjusts his policies when the circumstances change.
Yeah, and I just want to play the clip of him talking about Putin as well and get your reaction on the flip side here, Brigitte.
Would have a good talk. And it seemed on, let's say, 3 occasions, it seemed that we were going to have a ceasefire and maybe peace, and you divide it up and you do whatever you have to do, that obviously to get to the end. And all of a sudden, missiles are flying into Kiev and other places. And I say, what's that all about? I spoke to him 3-4 hours ago, and it looked like we were on our way. And then I'd say, forget it, and I'm not going to talk anymore. You know, this has happened on too many occasions, and I don't like it. I don't like it.
10 to 12 days is not a long window here. Putin has a big decision to make, Brigitte.
He has a very big decision to make. And look, President Trump sets a deadline. And he sent an already very important message to the world when Iran did not meet the deadline of 60 days. And the day after Israel launched its attack, and America came to Israel's aid and destroyed the nuclear reactor in Iran. And so when you look at Russia right now, Putin needs to listen to Trump. Trump is on his wits' end with Putin. He now realizes that Putin was just dragging, stalling, using every tactic to just buy time. President Trump is on to him. He gave him now this short notice of 2 weeks. And if Putin doesn't listen, he needs to realize that President Trump will use everything at his disposal to do what he believes is right in order to bring peace to Ukraine and stop the Russian aggression against Ukraine.
Well, trade continues to be a story when it comes to China. U.S. and China holding their first talks today in Sweden. You know, this is an important piece, Fred. We know China an adversary, and there's this talk that President Trump and Xi may actually be face-to-face later this fall at the summit there. You know, they've had some, you know, as you talked about, not, you know, glossing over some of these major deals. China would be another incredible one to add to the list here, as we mentioned, Japan and Indonesia, the EU and the UK.
It would be, but trade with China is a harder problem to solve because China's cheating on trade and their exploitation of global trade is so severe. Now, a truce in U.S.-China trade tariff war is supposed to end on August 12th. They're talking right now that there may be additional 90-day extensions of that because these negotiations are so tense. They also involve critical minerals, the export of fentanyl chemicals that are making fentanyl to come into the United States. So there's a lot to talk about here. Trump wants to get to an agreement. I think there will be a summit between Trump and Xi. But what I'm hearing right now is there probably isn't going to be an agreement in August, and there'll be another, at least one 90-day delay.
All right. Well, we'll watch that closely. There's a story breaking right now. Real Clear Politics was breaking this story, and there's apparently now an investigation. The U.S. Secret Service has launched an incident over the weekend where an agent tried to smuggle his wife onto a Secret Service car plane on President Trump's visit to Scotland. So we're watching President Trump right now, who is landing back in Scotland after being at the tarmac at the airport. He's now back here in Aberdeen. But when we hear about this, Brigitte, another concern, the Secret Service investigating what they say is a Phase 1 agent, new trainee. Over the weekend on the golf course, too, we saw an armored type of golf cart following President Trump. But the Secret Service has really been looked at as the massive failures at Butler, at his golf course, we know, in West Palm Beach, avoiding that Ryan Ruth assassination attempt, and now this. Your reaction to what we're hearing about potential and this new investigation here?
Well, we know that many people want to see President Trump dead, whether they are our enemies from the outside or even enemies from the inside. And this is just another wake-up call and a reminder to the importance of security around the president and why we need to vet everybody, double vet them, do whatever is required. It is such a shame that it takes a continuous reminder like this to realize why we need to be on our A game when it comes to the security of the President of the United States, especially this president who is ruffling a lot of feathers in order to protect America outside as well as within the inside.
Yeah, and also promote peace even in the Middle East. Fred, just a finer point on this, the investigation into the Secret Service Phase 1 agent, apparently it was a question about why they thought it would be okay to take his wife, who's also a member of the United States Air Force, on a mission support flight. It's a C-17 car plane to Scotland. You know, we await more details on this, but you know, when you hear Secret Service, another investigation, another potential, you know, security presentation for, you know, President Trump, it is disturbing on many levels, since we still have so many questions about Butler and about Ryan Ruth.
I'm sort of at a loss for words. People do stupid things, and this person's career is obviously over for doing something so absurd. It obviously wasn't a security threat, but it's a serious violation of the rules. We don't know who this additional person was. These people have to be vetted before they get on a presidential aircraft or have immediate access to the president. And I think there's going to have to be an evaluation of why this was even possible.
Yeah, how did they get to have this point here? You're right. Again, live pictures here, folks. President Trump has touched back down at the golf course in Aberdeen, Scotland, on this trip where he started the day alongside UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Fred Fleitz, Brigitte Gabriel, great to have you both with us. Thank you for your thoughtful comments and analysis today on the breaking news as well, with Vladimir Putin and the new deadline President Trump has set. Appreciate you both.
Good to be here.
Thank you.